feeling like a shark in a shrimp tank. Big fish, small pond in the shrimp tank. When it's
Hey everybody, welcome to the post-show wrap-up of the Shrimp Tank here at the Oxygen Financial Studios. I'm sitting here with my co-host today, Lee Heisman, and our guest today, who is Chris Hanks, who's the executive director and founder of the Shore Center for Entrepreneurship. And we thought we'd have Chris on for this post-show wrap-up today because as KSU is celebrating the 2-year anniversary of this Entrepreneurship Center, we thought we'd talk all about what's happening with these wonderful kids. And so we appreciate you taking some time to enlighten us on how kids get taught at KSU.
Absolutely, a privilege.
Well, Chris, Ted and I have been on your board for the past 2 years since you've been at the university, and I've seen such a transition and such an evolution of the university and the Entrepreneurship Center. Year one, you surrounded yourself with the best entrepreneurs in the Southeast, but I've noticed a tremendous difference in year two where a lot more people are beginning to step up for you in the university. Tell me exactly how that has happened and what impact you feel the most.
Yeah, though, that part has been a game changer for us. Absolutely a game changer. And an entrepreneur can only do so much being the doer of the thing that you do, right? You got to move to the owner of the thing that you do. And what I've learned now, and which has been hard for me because we're surrounded by all these wonderful entrepreneurs who have so much pressure on their time, but I've learned to how do we enroll them in our journey? And so, okay, here's a key initiative, here's sort of my objectives, and then letting these awesome people just run with it. Say, okay, here's the vision, cast the vision and letting them run towards it. And it has allowed us to accomplish more than I ever thought possible in year two.
And so from working with these kids, and I know that KSU is growing like crazy, do you in fact, Chris Hanks yourself, have to come up with a business plan for what's going to happen with the Shore Center for Entrepreneurship? I mean, we talk about having these business plans with these owners. Do you actually have to come up with a business plan yourself?
So not a formal one, more like a strategic plan, like a 1 to 2 page strategic plan saying, look, okay, here's my goals, here's the budget to hit to it, here's how I would measure success in year 3, year 4, year 5. So it's more of a, like what I tend to follow is more of like a 2-page essentially strategic plan. The first page is essentially on vision casting, and the second more on the key metrics, holding yourself accountable to actually hitting them.
So you have twice as much information as Trump's tax plan.
As long as it's 15%, I'm happy.
I'm perfectly
give it to
happy
me.
as well.
I don't care what the rest of the plan is. Give me 15%.
Right. So, Chris, for all the listeners out there, guests have been on the show, and I'm going to be their voice today, and I'm going to throw at you a plead the fifth, which I know you had the biggest clause for. Is, over the past 2 years, Chris, you've done such a wonderful job. What would you say over the past 2 years has been your biggest disappointment that you've experienced at the KSU Entrepreneurship Center?
I'm a big fan of the Peter Drucker quote, the bottlenecks are always at the top. My biggest disappointment has been my ability to scale this as effectively as possible. I know we've accomplished so much, but there's so much opportunity. And I feel like, sometimes, we are our own bottlenecks. And I think that, given all of surrounded by the best entrepreneurs, all the opportunity that we have, we've done amazing things, but I keep thinking about what's possible. They say the greatest tragedy in life is the difference between what somebody is and what they could have been. And we all have that gap. And I think that's been my biggest disappointment. It's like, I think there's a gap. So we could have been better.
Well, let me defend you, and I'll be quiet after this. Chris, you ran the Entrepreneurship Center at UGA, one of the most prominent schools in the state. You ran that center for 9 years, and within a matter of 2 years, Chris, you received the first and only degree in the state of Georgia. So I think you're being too critical of yourself.
Stuff. Yeah, I didn't have Lee and Ted around me.
It's a fair point.
Well, we'll give it up to Lee. I'm just a cog in the machine. So for those folks that are watching the post-show wrap-up and they're thinking about wanting to learn more about Kennesaw State for their child or just checking it out themselves on what's happening at the amazing school and how it's growing and what you're doing, how can folks who are watching this wrap-up get in touch with you or get in touch with the school?
You can just go to kennesaw.edu and /EC for Entrepreneurship Center.
Well, there you have it from Chris Hanks, who's the executive director and founder of the Shore Center for Entrepreneurship. And look, don't be a shrimp when you're an entrepreneur. You're either part of the steamroller or you're part of the pavement. And that's the post-show wrap-up on the Shrimp Tank.